John, the vista here is unbelievable. What are we looking at here first?
So we're at the kind of the western end of the 𝘔𝘰𝘶𝘯𝘴 Mountains. They extend here out to the east for another 100 miles or more. And we're looking at some of the higher peaks in the 𝘔𝘰𝘶, probably right around 13,000 feet here. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It is phenomenal. John, can you take me back here for a second? Let's talk about how we got all of this.
Yeah, Del, I think these mountains that we're looking at actually rose at the end of the flood. So the earth was destroyed by the flood, and then as the flood ended, Psalm 104 tells us that the mountains rose up and the valleys sank down. I think these mountains that we see in western North America and all the other high and rugged mountains that we see around the world rose up at the end of Noah's flood. That's why they're so high. They were never eroded by the flood. Other mountains that rose up earlier in the flood, like the Appalachian Mountains or the Atlas Mountains, were eroded down to the smaller mountains that we see today by the floodwaters.
So during the flood, we have those massive sedimentary layers that are being laid all over, like the Tackett sandstone. You told me just covered most of North America.
Right.
Massive, massive. But they're horizontal, right?
They are.
Most all of those
Yep.
layers are horizontal. What happened then?
Well, we see some of the horizontal layers that are in these mountains towards the tops of these mountains. And these horizontal layers actually formed below sea level. So they formed during the flood, but they would have formed at depths that were
Yes.
much lower than we're 10,000 feet right now. And so they would have formed under the floodwaters. And then after the flood, they would have risen to the heights that they are now.
Was that a miraculous event, or can we see forces at play? That God, of course, was involved in that.
Sure.
But what forces would move mountains this size?
Well, we think it goes back to our idea of catastrophic plate tectonics. And so at the end of the flood, a plate was going under western North America, creating the mountains like the Rockies and the 𝘔𝘰𝘶𝘯𝘴. In South America, another plate was being subducted to create the high mountains and volcanoes of the Andes. And in Asia, two different plates collided to form the enormous mountain ranges of the Himalayas. In all these instances, we think the plates had to be moving very quickly to have the energy to create such high mountains. But these mountains formed at the very end of the flood, and that's why they're still so high.
Well, I guess the point, John, I hear you making is that even after the flood is over and Noah has landed in the ark, that there are a lot of catastrophic events that are going on all over.
That's
and that is what then shapes a lot of what we see.
You know, when Noah gets off the ark, it's not the end of catastrophe. To raise mountains up like this, you're going to have big earthquakes. And as these mountains rise, they're full of this wet, unconsolidated flood sediment. That's a recipe for huge landslides. Some of the biggest landslides that we know about are here in the southern part of Utah. So don't think of the mountains rising up as we see them right here, but think of a lot more rock in between here as these mountains originally rose up.
And so that erosion would even be more profound, I guess.
Yeah, we have big storms coming into the continents, and especially if you get those storms at high elevations like this, that water has a lot of energy as it runs downhill, many thousands of feet. Also at higher elevations like this, you have the opportunity for snow to fall. And if you have large amounts of snow that falls, you get the development of glacial ice.
And that glacial ice covered a lot of the northern part of North America then, did it not?
Yeah, it covered much of the Rockies. As you know, in Colorado, there's lots of glacial valleys there. Glaciers are one of the things that can carve those deep, steep-walled valleys in various places.
Would it be safe to say then that what we see today, not just here, but all over the world, is not what Noah saw when he got off the mountain?
That's right. And so those kinds of things, those kinds of catastrophes, help shape, help sculpt the mountains that we see today.